Alright, now we should be live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, October 19th, as I pull it up on my phone and watch an ad here for 5 seconds, and then we will talk to you guys. And as always, thank you so much for being here. Let me mute myself. There we go. Alright, and as always, Dave Bryan is here. Dave, thanks for being here with us.
Always, always. Happy Monday, humans.
Alright, again, if there's any issue with audio stuff, let me know, but I think we should be okay. I know my audio probably sounds worse than usual because I'm still waiting on a new headset because my headset last week broke. Anyway, let's get to your questions right away here, and we start off with David O., our own David Orchena. Hi, Alex. Question on the opening drive. It sure looked to me that Denzel Ward had Washington in his grasp with the ball in the air. Don't think all 22 is out, but was it a close call or a blatant miss? The all 22 just came out a few hours ago, David. That play you're referring to was on that corner route. Do you know what play David's referring to, Dave?
Yeah, I do. It was close. I haven't look, the all 22. It's not like you get a really close up on it, but and I've made it through, I don't know, about 20 or so plays or whatnot, and it didn't stick out to me.
Okay, yeah. So overall,
I'll look at it again before we record on Wednesday.
and David also is asking about the Ebron push-off call and the Hayden DPI. The Ebron was a terrible call, I thought. Ebron barely touched the guy, but that is very ticky-tack, is the phrase you used, Dave. And the Hayden, which I think was officially illegal contact, was obvious because Odell ran a double move, and had Hayden not done that, that's an easy 6 for Beckham Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Haters MD, hello Alex. It's interesting that we haven't heard much Tomlin criticism lately. Perhaps it really only does come out when we're losing. Would be interesting to get your take. I think you're right. I think obviously the way it goes for a lot of head coaches, save for some of the elite guys like Bill Belichick, usually the credit gets put somewhere else in winning, and then the blame goes squarely on the head coach's shoulders when things go south. So I think that's just commonplace through most fan bases. It's been common with Pittsburgh, the Cowher days. I'm sure at some point in the Knoll days it happened as well. Back in '69 when they went 1-13 that year, they probably were rolling their eyes saying same old Steelers. So I think that's just a function of how most fan bases work.
Results bias.
You said it much more succinctly than I ever could, and I think you're right about that. Mark Leslie, this will be a nice way to end my birthday. Happy birthday, Mark. Thanks for spending it with us.
There you go, Mark. Happy birthday.
Mutated Genome, as always, is here in the chat. He says, yes, Derrick Henry is a beast, but so was Saquon Barkley, and so was the Browns' rushing offense. Does the Titans' blocking scheme provide a unique challenge that the Steelers may have trouble handling? I haven't watched the Titans yet. I don't know if you have, Dave, but it will be a challenge. But as you pointed out, I think you're right to do that. We said that could they stop Barkley? They did. Could they stop the Browns' rushing attack? They did. And so Henry will certainly be a challenge and a unique one specific to him. But the Steelers' run defense, to me, is the best unit in football.
And look, here's a different kind of challenge here. I mean, this Derrick Henry, and obviously the Steelers didn't get to face Nick Chubb. Chubb missed that game, but boy, the Chiefs are just running the ball on the Bills. I don't know why they signed Le'Veon Bell.
What's the score there?
They just scored a touchdown. They're going up. Looks like it'll be 20-10 now. But back to Derrick Henry. The guy's just you call it the a planet theory type of guy. He's got speed and power, and I mean, you look at him. He's built like a thoroughbred horse, man. I mean, physical runner, and I think the difference with him, he can wear you down as games go on. So yeah, you got to stop the run early with him, and then you don't want to get in close ball games with him because they'll continue to feed him the ball, and he'll continue to punish you especially if he gets in that secondary and all too. And you saw what happened against the Texans late in that game yesterday. Wore him down, and boy, get a quick little pass out to the side over there, and he goes rumbling. He's got powerful, and people don't want to tackle him the further they go into game. So it's a different, not that it's not a similar challenge in stopping the running game. And look, we don't know what's going to happen to Mike Hilton in this game either. One of the best run run slot corners, if you will. And if he's not in there, that presents another little bit of a mini challenge in there. So, we'll see, obviously, but I mean, it is a different kind of challenge because he is just a bigger more powerful back than the Steelers have faced
Hmm.
this year.
And I would say, similar to Barkley in that elite running back sense, but of course the Titans have a much better offense overall than what the Giants had. So that's kind of the difference, I think, in the challenge. And Henry himself, again, is just a unique guy. There is no one in football quite like him, although it is important to point out the Titans did lose their left tackle, Taylor Lewan, who's one of the best left tackles in football, a real old school throwback dude, accused of being one of the dirtier players in football, but kind of embodied some of that hard-nosed mentality that team had. And so while the Steelers are dealing with Devin Bush, the Titans are having that same conversation about life without Taylor Lewan.
Yeah, and somebody's got to line up against. It'll be interesting to see what they do. Is Ty Sambrello gonna play left tackle? You know, they've got that rookie that they're talking about. They might start getting into action here, or they might take the right tackle and move him over to left tackle. You know, they did that last year, the first 4 games when Taylor Lewan was out there. So they've got a lot of different options there, and obviously none of those options include Taylor Lewan. So regardless, somebody's gonna pull the short stick in this deal.
That is Isaiah Wilson you're referring to, the rookie, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
big body for sure, but it's not had a great start to his career. Some off the field issues as well. Mr. Tummy says hello, and so does Pablo Martinez. Says hello, Alex and Dave, and the rest of the chat. Thank you guys for being here. Jeff Bendowski says over under Derrick Henry yards versus Steelers. I'm not
Oh
good at
wow.
being Vegas, but 66, I'll put it at. Is that a decent number to start with?
Yeah, probably. I'd probably go around maybe 72 or so. Look, he's going to get some yards, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, if you keep him under the number that you just mentioned there, what a phenomenal job that. It all depends. Can you jump on top of him? One of the big things in this game against the Browns is jumping on them, and even though they credit to them, they still tried to stick to the run. They tried to stick to the run a little bit too long. Heck, they even tried to stick with Baker Mayfield probably a little bit longer than they should have there. But once again, you got to try to take the running game out of the equation there, and once you do that, you make them a little bit more one-dimensional. You can let your edge rushers just pin their ears back and go. And we saw some of and Alex and I talked this morning on a podcast that you saw some of the Browns' kind of biggest runs, if you will, just by the Steelers saying to heck with the run. We want to get after Baker here and kind of ignoring setting the edge and all like that. And that's going to tend to happen when you have big leads like that and all. So I think that's a fair number you threw out, Alex.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Vegas puts it at later in the week. Dennis Sheridan, always a friendly face in the chat and in the comment section on YouTube. Hey, Alex and Dave, despite the Devin Bush injury, should fantasy football players sit Derrick Henry for Sunday, or does Vrabel expose a weakness and we get clobbered for 200 plus? I mean, those are two different extremes. I'm not the best at fantasy football advice, but I think it's awfully tough to sit a guy like Derrick Henry unless you have some really good options in an 8-team league, for example. So I think he's basically in that must-start kind of category.
Hard to sit him because of look, even if they get even if they don't score much, who's most likely to if they run the ball in, it's probably going to be him.
Do they still only have two running backs on the roster? Is it still him and like Darrington Evans?
I
I
haven't
think
looked
it's
at
just
their
those
depth
two.
chart.
I mean, it's Henry is just like the definition of a feature back. They barely have any other running backs on the team. It feels like. But maybe Henry scores a 1-yard touchdown. Maybe he does something in the pass game as he did in OT yesterday. So unless you're just in a really good place, roster-wise, then I think Henry's a must-start. And I know my fantasy teams are hurt. I'm in a 20-team league, and I just lost Raheem Mostert again. So I'm starting like Jalen Samuels over here. It's getting pretty rough in one of my leagues.
They
Question.
got like don't they have like McNichols over there, and doesn't he? It goes from Henry with 123 carries to McNichols with 16 is the
Okay.
second most, and then Tannehill's the third leading amount of rushes on a team with 15.
All right, yeah, I forgot about Jeremy McNichols over there. Double HH, Steelers are well prepared to handle a loss at inside linebacker. The lessons from our 2017 Shazier ordeal have been burned into the coach's collective consciousness as a possible what-if scenario from 2019 on. I think that's a fair point. Certainly some life lessons learned from the mistakes, responding to the Shazier injury, trying to sign Sean Spence, trying to move Arthur Moats from outside linebacker to inside linebacker, really just overlooking LJ Fort, going in the face of their next man up mentality. So doesn't really solve some of the issues, but I think from a knee-jerk reaction standpoint, I would tend to agree that hopefully they will embrace that next man up mentality more so this time. And Spillane, as you mentioned on the show today, Dave, had a really good performance filling in for Bush in the second half of that one.
Yeah, just keep your fingers crossed. I think it's clear now at this point, 24 hours later here, that he's going to be the next man up. I think he should be the next man up. I don't buy all this talk about people thinking the Steelers got to go outside the organization here, just from the sheer fact of going to take that if they what are you going to get? B, how much is going to cost, and how quickly can that player come in and be expected to be your defensive quarterback, if you will. And people just think you just bring a guy in and that's it. But it's taken them a while to get to this point where they have that continuity and people that fully understand where everybody's going to be on the field. The communication aspect obviously has seen its better moments at times, but it's slowly getting better. It should be Spillane right now, and then we'll see how much they mix in guys like maybe UG3 or Marcus Allen on top of that. So we'll see. As Alex and I said, I mean, this is a kid that's not going to go to the Pro Bowl, but on top of it, just on the little bit of tape that we've seen from him preseason and now regular season there, I think his athleticism is underrated just a tad bit. Okay, so look, we'll see. You got to know that opposing offensive coordinators are going to probably try to key in on him, especially in some aspect when it comes to the passing game right out of shoot. So these next couple of weeks we'll learn a little bit more about Robert Spillane, but he should be the next man up for sure.
Who would you, and I know it's a very small sample size we're trying to make this comparison to, who would you compare Spillane's athleticism to? I view him in a very similar mold as a Vince Williams, Mark Baronish, just in terms of the athleticism. Is that fair, or are you in a different place? Because it seemed like on the show you were closer to an LJ Fort.
Yeah, and I am kind of at that. Now, look, I mean, we haven't seen him play a lot of meaningful snaps right now. Still, a lot of the stuff that we have to go on is mostly preseason stuff between the Titans years and obviously since he's been with the Steelers last year, because obviously he didn't have the preseason games this year, but. Just in those few snaps, especially go back to that preseason game against Tampa Bay. I think he just showed a little bit more athleticism in there. He surprised me. I had pretty much written him off, and obviously he ended up getting stashed on the practice squad, and if not for an injury, he wouldn't have got promoted last year. But when he did, he showed his worth on special. Look, he gets down the field too on special teams, does he not?
He does, but so did Tyler Matakevich, and he was not a guy.
Right.
It's a different skill set to go backwards than it is in a line. So
if you look at his triangle numbers, they weren't totally awful. Obviously, You'd like to see the 40 to be a little bit better.
He ran. Someone asked a question. He ran 4.66. Is that correct?
Sounds it was very close to 4.7.
Okay, yeah. Judas Booth asked the question. I think it was 4.66.
All right. And his I think it was like a 4.20 short shuttle and like a 7.19 three cone. I think you'll have to look those up. See how good I am on it. But those numbers seem to be etched in my mind. But look, I mean, he's not Devin Bush. Nobody should try to pretend that he is. But he is a guy that I think. Has a little bit better athleticism and can turn and run a little bit better than Vince can. Now, look, Vince plays downhill fantastic. Now, no way Robert Spillane's going to be considered a better downhill linebacker than Vince is. Vince knows how to right arm, take on blockers correctly. But I just in a sheer sense of playing downfield and moving some out in space. We'll see. I think he can handle it.
Yeah. Excuse me. I think he is very similar to Vince Williams, just my opinion. I think you do now have basically two Vince Williams types on the field, which certainly has some benefit, but also has some drawback. But we'll see. I mean, as you said, I think they will test him early and often, and if he's a dime linebacker, they'll certainly test him as well. He'll naturally be put in some difficult situations in coverage, and we'll find out pretty quickly how good he can function in space.
And I think someone just put in the chat there about learning their lesson. Look, it's dumbfounding what happened a couple years ago. Now, albeit too, that defense was a little bit more, a lot more zone defense, I think, at the time when that went down too. Obviously, you got a lot better, a higher pedigree talent
Mm-hmm.
on the defensive side of the ball than you did have a few years ago when they when they lost Shazier there. But all that mixing and matching of Spence and expecting a guy like Spence to come off the street like that and run, essentially run that defense was just, I didn't understand it, especially with the way that and I hate to boil it back down to that one game that Fort had against the Ravens, but that was a damn good game, and it was kind of dumbfounding why he didn't get the chance there. Look, we'll see. We'll know in about 2 or 3 games whether or not they might need to look at other options there. But in the meantime, I would expect Spillane to play good 70%, 80%, if not more, of the snaps there on the defensive side of football right now.
And now Fort, funny enough, is a Baltimore Raven. And Strong American Patriot says Spillane's 40 time was a 4.43. I'm pretty sure that's not accurate.
Yeah, I don't think that's right.
I wish it was. He would not have been undrafted if he ran a 4.43. I'll tell you that much. But we'll find out, as you said, Dave. Jamie Comet says, Alex, you're the best. Thank you so much for being here, Jamie. Pablo Martinez says, have they confirmed that Bush has a torn ACL? It has not been confirmed by the team. I'm sure Tomlin will provide an update tomorrow at his noon press conference, but every indication from Adam Schefter most notably has reported it is a torn ACL. Nothing to the sort's been refuted, so all but certain that it is a torn ACL.
And with the way the players are responding today, Spillane talked about him, and a few other players. I mean, he's done. Looking real quick, pulling up Robert Spillane's pro day results here. 4.77 is what they have him down at for his pro day. Now, obviously, some of these pro day results are probably going to vary a little bit. So they have him down at 4.77.
What site is this?
They Draft Scout.
Okay, gotcha.
And they have his 20-yard shuttle is 4.40.
Yeah, he's
so there's the 4.40. His 3-cone 7.13.
All right, he's faster than 4.77. I'll give him that. He's not a 4.77 kind of guy. That's a Medikevich type. But with Bush, hopefully it's not any other ligament damage, LCL, PCL, stuff like that, MCL that may complicate things. Hopefully it's funny
clean.
To say. Yeah,
hopefully
it's clean.
And the way he was able to get off there makes me, and I'm no doctor, but just watching it over the years, we'll ask Dr. Mel about it when we get her on the show, hopefully Wednesday or Friday and all. But the way, I've kind of learned in the past that if those guys are able to get up and at least get off on it, maybe it's clean. So we'll see. I don't know, obviously, but just the hope is that he didn't mess anything else up in there.
Right. In my very MD expertise, the ACL is the cutting. You can't cut on an ACL. You can walk, not greatly, but you can walk. But cutting is where the ACL really comes into play. Mark Leslie, birthday boy, says, weekly update, Alex, how close are you to putting all your money on the Steelers to win it all, and when will you accept you're wrong when it comes to Faith Hill, Carrie Underwood? Mark, I don't want to tell you you're wrong on your birthday about Faith and Carrie, so I won't. But to the first question about how close I am to putting the Steelers on winning it all, I mean, they certainly have the ability to do so. I've never denied that. They're going to get some bigger tests with the Chiefs if they get in the playoff hunt, and Baltimore, of course, they'll see twice in the regular season, but this team is as talented as it needs to be to win a Super Bowl. I think there's no disputing that.
But you want to ball? If I had been on a desert island and no communication, and you come back and show me those adjusted net yards for passing attempt numbers on both sides of the ball there that I posted earlier today on Twitter, I tell you, this is a Super Bowl caliber team.
Yeah, what's the number on that again? Do you have that? I know I tweeted it, and they're impressive numbers. They deserve the eye emoji that you associate it with. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure the numbers for the Cleveland game were one game, but astronomically good.
Their offensive number that you and I talked about on the podcast, I think this morning, 7.4. Anytime that number's like 6.8 or better, obviously. Is good to have this offense, especially. Look, Ben hasn't had any really monster games outside of being able to throw a couple of touchdown passes, average almost a couple nearly 2 touchdown passes a game, right around in there. To have a 7.4 adjusted net yards per passing attempt number, because that number takes in touchdowns, passing attempts, sacks, touchdowns, interceptions, and yardage on top of it. That's a fine number right now. Defensively, 4.7, third best in the league right now, and that's with a clunker and a half in there, I guess you'd call it, on top of it. So look, the way they played against the Browns, if that's the product that they're going to start putting out there, look out. Their differential is 2.7. I haven't looked what the differential is league wide, but I guarantee it's top 5.
And for defense, the number you want is what, 6 and below?
Yeah, I mean, ideally like 5.9 or below, based on that number seems to be trending up a little bit higher, in recent years with offenses and all like that, or and all. So I mean, to have a number, anything.
4.7.
Yeah, if you get it below 5.5, you're doing something. Now, look, we still kind of, I like to get to that 6 to 7 game measuring point, because, the sample size and all like that. But even it would take one heck of a clunker for them right now in these next couple of games for that thing to budge, over, let's say, like the 5.5 mark. So they're in good shape right now. Obviously, you don't want to suffer any more injuries if you can help it there, but this team is in fine shape as we sit here 5 games into the season.
You don't have to do it right now if it's not going to be easily accessible, but do you have the numbers for that, for the 2008 and the 2005 Steelers? I'd be curious just to compare that. I know eras will maybe change that a little bit, but I'd just be curious to know how they stack up to some of the better defenses over the last 2 decades.
I'll
go to the next question.
I'll get them for you.
All right. Haters MD says, how much of an impact do you see the loss of Devin Bush having on our defense? I think we explained it. It is a clear loss, a noticeable loss, but not one where we're going to, use that as an excuse for if this defense implodes, but it's certainly a huge loss. There's no questioning that. Soliver6, hey y'all, was it me, or did it seem like TJ was roaming more in the middle after Bush's injury, or was it just more noticeable because eyes were there due to Bush missing? It's an overfront, they do that quite a bit, maybe a little bit more because Bush was out, but honestly I think it was more circumstantial of facing some multiple tight end sets and fullbacks in the game and some short yardage situations, and so I think it was less about the absence of Devin Bush more so than it was just what they would have done normally. Those are 3 linebacker situations where you have Spillane still in the game. You would have had Bush in the game had he been available. So I think it was really just you noticing it more because Bush was out.
Nero, 2008, the defense 3.2 was the defensive adjusted net yards passing attempt number. Now, obviously that's kind of archaic right now because the game has changed quite a bit.
Sure.
With fronts and running the football and the fullbacks and all like that. So 2008, I mean, that was extremely low. 2010, it was
probably a little higher, I'm guessing.
It was 4.3.
Yeah, but all right, so they're at 4.7, and just given the era difference, I mean, that probably if you had to do some sort of inflation conversion, so to speak, you're probably around the same from that 08 and 2010 team. So very good stuff there. Nero the King, isn't it strange how we thought the strength of the defense would be the pass defense and the weakness would be run defense? Now we sit here with the best run defense in football. Dave, any thoughts on that comment?
I don't know if that we necessarily said that we thought the run defense was going to be bad.
Yeah, I think weakness is a relative term where we were saying, well, at least I was saying that maybe there were some questions there, obviously replacing Hargrave at the nose. I had some worries about that, but there was still going to be a good run defense. So I think that's a fair characterization, at least from my standpoint. But whenever I said it might be the weaker part, that's still a very good part of the defense that most defenses would love to have. So it was kind of a first world problems perspective of this defense. Mr. Tummy says, do you think we can limit Henry, and if so, what concerns do you have with the Titans' passing offense? Today we talked about Derrick Henry in the run game. What concerns may you have initially about the Titans' passing attack?
I think mostly, look, I mean, they've got some talented guys over there. You see that catch that they, who is it, Brown?
Yep, A.J. Brown.
AJ Brown. I mean, he's a bigger kind of receiver that needs to be respected. I suppose they're going to try to get him matched up quite a bit on Steven Nelson on that side over there. And look, I mean, Jonas Smith, who's dealing with an ankle injury right now, coming out of that game yesterday, especially in the red zone. I think he's got like 5 touchdowns already, something like that. And I think he's either first or second in the team in catching and in catches and receiving yards. So look, you lost Devin Bush there. So yeah, I mean, I think Robert Spillane going to get a little bit of a workout probably right in the first game, and even that backup Frisker or Frusker
Berkser had like a big game yesterday, right?
yeah,
Anthony
he had
Frisker.
a career game, something like 8 catches, 100 something yards, and a touchdown in that game. A career game for him as well too. So look, Tannehill very managed, I think, kind of calculated game, but I mean he's made some good throws, man. He really has. He has reinvigorated himself in that Tennessee offense there, and hats off to him because I kind of had wrote him off after he was done with the Dolphins there and all. So look, and a running game will always help a passing game.
Yeah, just get away from Adam Gase was apparently the secret sauce for Ryan Tannehill. John Pennington says, how large will tackling be in this game and stopping the run? It is vital, John, that you have to tackle well. You got to have multiple guys to bring Henry down. As good as his defense is, one guy probably won't do the trick, or if you try it, will be carrying an extra 3 or 4 yards forward. So tackling, I think, in any game is vital, and especially against Henry in this Titans offense.
Look, I don't think you're going to shut him down. I think it's a lot to ask just to shut him down. But I think, obviously, yeah, tackling is going to be huge, and you don't want to have to get where you're having to tackle that guy for 4 quarters. If he's still carrying the ball a lot in the fourth quarter, look out. That's why you want to get a little bit of a lead on him, I think. And I think because I would bet that Henry has a decent success rate running the football, even against the Steelers. I think it's going to set up more manageable down and distances for them on third down. So your third down defense against the Titans will probably look more like a bunch of 3rd and 3s and 3rd and 4s than 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s. And can you get off the field in those shorter third down situations versus the Browns having, I think, a lot longer third down situations there. So he's going to have some level of success. It's all about limiting that. Yeah, tackling obviously going to be a big part of it. And I don't want to have to see, especially the guys in the secondary, have to worry about tackling Derrick Henry well into the fourth quarter.
Very well said, and I agree. Raymond Santiago, will the loss of Devin Bush possibly hurt the Steelers in a deep playoff run? I mean, undeniably, the answer to that is yes. Bush, not having him makes your team worse. Can you use that as the sole excuse when the time comes? I mean, no. Maybe there's a game where there's a running back, Edwards-Helaire, that just constantly whoops up on Vince and Spillane, and you sit there and say, man, not having Bush really, really hurts you. But short answer is an obvious one. Yes. I mean, this team is worse off without Devin Bush, obviously. Daniel Babar, hello Dave and Alex. If Juju ends the season with mediocre stats, do you believe the Steelers will attempt to negotiate another contract with Juju? I think they'll attempt to negotiate regardless of what his stats are. The question is just a matter of value, and it is interesting to know where his value might be if he does have not a great season statistically because of the number of weapons on this team. But I think, again, another obvious answer, there will be a negotiation, just can you find a price that works given the cap climate that's so difficult right now for this team, for this league. It's going to be the million or millions dollar question.
Look, he's going to still, he's going to have his games where he has the 100-something yards still this season and the 6, 7, 8 catches and maybe a couple of touchdowns. So, the best thing about this offense right now is they can spread the football around, and Ben doesn't have to feel like he's got to force the ball anywhere. Is it going to result in Juju not catching 90 balls this year? Or, yeah, quite possibly so. I mean, he really would have to get on his horse right now to get back on some sort of pace where he's at that. But he could still catch, I don't know, 60, or 70 balls, I think, he could still have 8, 9, 10 touchdowns, and he could still have 1,000 yards, And if he does, look, it's going to, I still think it's going to take a lot to decrease his overall free agent market value. it all comes down. Look, I think either way they would want Juju back. It's all about market value. It's all about cap space once again. And the only way you're going to prevent him from hitting free agency is to either sign him right out of the chute at the end of the season. We talked about several times, which is really unorthodox for the Steelers when it comes to the higher dollar free agents, if you will. Or you're going to have to place the franchise tag on him. And I kind of doubt they're going to want to. I kind of figure they're going to want to stay away from that franchise tag. Look, it's not impossible that he returns, but regardless of what his stats are, but I still tend to lean toward it's going to be incredibly challenging to keep him.
And actually, I haven't looked at the Steelers' team receiving stats for the season. Juju's still first in receptions, 23. Claypool, Washington tied for second with 17. Juju is still second in yards behind Claypool and still second in touchdowns. Now his yards per target here are very low, 6.9. It's a tight end type number, but interesting to see how that one's going to play out. So there's your Steelers receiving stats. Train rolling by, so I apologize for that. Next question here. MW says, wear him down, referring to Derrick Henry. Tear them knees and legs up like a mouse and elephant. Low shoots legs and ankles, make the big guys nervous. Yeah, DBs are going to have to go low on this guy. You can't go high on Derrick Henry, expect to do anything but to be bounced off. So hopefully it doesn't get to that point where DBs are making a lot of tackles, but if you're against Derrick Henry in space, you're going to have to shoot low. There's no getting around that. Blake Literal says, Dave T gave me so much information. I talked about him to all my friends and family. He will never be forgotten. He really made my day during draft time. Inspirational man. There will never be another. Blake, that's very kind of you to say. I thought Dave had a great kind of eulogy of Dave T. Thomas. For those who do not know, Dave T. Thomas, who was always a special guest on the show during draft season, longtime scout, sadly passed away last week after a battle with cancer. And so definitely our thoughts and prayers go out to his family and to Paul Crane, who was his co-host on their podcast, Scout's Honor. And so thank you, Blake, for that. That's very kind for you to say. Braden Miller says they have Dion Lewis as a backup. I think he's in the Giants with the Giants now. He was with the backup last year, Braden. So as you mentioned, Dave, Jeremy McNichols is the backup in Tennessee. Some more things on Dave T, saying, again from Blake, called the Highsmith pick. I have the screenshot to prove it, and Double HH says Dave Thomas would have been a great guy to talk about football drafts while at a barbershop. Hopefully someone has the gift to fill his big shoes. I think that's very well said, Double HH. And Blake Willie says, finally made it to one of these. Thank you for being here, Blake. It's a conversation about Spillane's 40 time. Sean Patriot says he was looking at a Post-Gazette article that said Spillane ran a 4.43. That's why you come to us and not to the Post-Gazette. Jay, we've mentioned the Bush situation, so I think just refer back to earlier in the show, and we'll talk about, we talked about Devin Bush and the impact and who might replace him. Brenton717 says, hey guys, thanks for always being so fast to respond and helpful. Thank you, Brenton. Hello, Blasting Cows. And Brenton also asks, looking forward, what would it take for us to keep either Cam Sutton or Mike Hilton? I assume there will be a strong market for Hilton, maybe less for Sutton. I think that's a fair assessment. I think they can retain Sutton to at least be the starting slot corner for next year, because they've certainly losing both Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton without any obvious in-house replacement would be big shoes to fill. Any thoughts there, Dave, with the Sutton Hilton?
It's gonna be tough to keep either one of them. Be honest with you.
Sutton's you still think could be too pricey?
I think it's gonna be tough to keep either one of them, man. I mean, look, we'll have to see what we're dealing with a variable in this thing that's impossible to kind of work around right now with not knowing what the cap number is going to be. Is it going to be 175? Is it going to be 225? That's a $50 million range there. Now, obviously, I don't think there's many people out there that think it's going to be 225 million. But what if it's a flat cap at 198? At least you're in the right area there. It's still going to make it tough though, and to get these guys to not hit at least test free agency, they either have to be really bottom of the barrel. I think a guy like Cam Sutton will be doing himself a disservice if he does not test free agency.
Even if he knows that if he resigns, if they come to him and say, Hilton's gone, we can't afford him, you resign with us and you're going to be our starting slot corner next season, I think that's pretty tempting.
It is, but once again, I mean, these guys don't get bites of the apple very often. You
Mm-hmm.
know, uh, I'm not saying it can't. Once again, I'm not saying it's impossible. I like his chances of maybe Sutton's chances of maybe returning more so than I do like Filer's.
Okay.
But even so, I've laid this out. I mean, several times in post on the site. It's tough. This team's got a lot of work to do right out the chute there. We're going to have to probably see some unorthodox things. Obviously, Ben off-season extension isn't unorthodox. Those normally happen in February, March kind of situation there. But I mean, they might have to get DeCastro done real quick. They might have to make a decision on Steven Nelson real quick. Obviously, there's going to be the cap casualties right out of shooting all too. It's just, a lot's got to happen in a much quicker time than normally you have to do this stuff. And once again, we're dealing with a variable there in the cap that it's hard to judge right now. Yeah, they've allowed fans to start coming back to these games, but not in the volume that maybe they thought they would at this point. Now, if they get to mid-season, they can have, 60% full stadiums. Maybe that's going to change the picture, but it's tough to judge. And right now, from where I sit, it's tough to imagine guys like Filer and Juju and Sutton and Hilton, any of those guys being back.
So, and this will be a almost impossible question to answer as we sit here today, but if both are gone, if both Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton walk, who is your nickel corner next season?
That's a good question. I mean, that's a great
Do
question.
you
I don't have an answer for that right now.
kick Nelson inside in sub package and hope Justin Lane can hold his own at right corner? They did that on Sunday when Hilton went down.
I suppose it's a possibility, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's so far off right now.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get another? Can you go find you another cast off undrafted free agent like they found Hilton? Because basically Hilton came out of nowhere,
Mm-hmm.
just appeared out of thin air.
Yeah, that's true. It'll be very difficult. I hope they don't have to entertain that question, but it is possible. Blasting Cow says, I think Spillane will do very well in Bush's place. What do you think about him? I think Dave and I gave our thoughts on Spillane. Physical, big hitter, better athlete than what people might think of him, although I think Dave thinks he's a better athlete than what I think. But we'll find out a lot about Robert Spillane. Regardless of what we thought about him, we'll find out a lot more over these next couple of weeks. KJ.
Look, you got 2 games. Your next 2 games are against quality opponents in the Titans and the Ravens. You are going to, you're going to learn a lot, and both of them have quality tight ends and use those tight ends, and both teams can run the football as well too. So you're going to learn not only more about your own defense in these next 2 games, you're going to learn more about a guy like Robert Spillane slap dab in the middle of that defense.
Yeah, I was really hoping that Devin Bush could play Lamar Jackson to slow down some other quarterback run game. I mean, you can still do that with Vincent Spillane, but it's harder. So that's a big loss too. Some mobile quarterbacks who can run, and Tannehill and certainly Lamar Jackson. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh, with Spillane coming into the game in relief of Bush due to injury. Do you see more of a rotation with RG3 and Allen to replace the sideline-to-sideline speed? We'll see. Again, it goes back to signal caller too. If Spillane's going to have the green dot, then do you take him off the field? And if so, then who's calling the shots in those situations? To me, and this is not me saying this is what they're going to do, it doesn't seem like this is what they're going to do, I would put the green dot on Vince. I'm not entirely sure why Spillane is getting that role over Vince, if that's what ultimately ends up happening. Because Spillane was the backup, Vince was the starter. Vince obviously knows your defense. He's a very smart football player. What is the compelling reason to give that to Spillane unless you really just like him that much more on third down?
What does it say about 2021 and Vince and that $4 million salary if you don't give him if he's not your guy right there?
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know how much it says, but it certainly doesn't say anything positive. I don't know how much negative it is, but it's not a good thing. But I would just wonder that. I mean, unless they really think Spillane is that much better on third down than Vince, who's a vet, played a ton of snaps, great communicator. I'm not saying Spillane isn't, but like Vince has been there, done that. We'll see. And we'll hear from Tomlin tomorrow and go from there. Maybe they give it to Minka. Maybe they give the green dot to someone else entirely.
Well, here's the thing too. What kind of personnel groupings are they going to be facing these next couple of weeks? What's probably more heavy packages, right?
Sure.
More so than not.
Tennessee than Baltimore, but still, end to half, passing situations, I mean, these teams can still spread it out. So you still may play dime defense because you're going to have some 3rd and 6 pluses where you're playing dime. So we'll see
Right.
who they put out there then.
Right, but as opposed to maybe what's on the rest of your schedule, you're probably going to see the most heavy. You're probably going to see the most amount of heaviest formation personnel groupings in these next 2 weeks, and you're probably going to see at any point, until you play the Ravens again, right?
True, but I'm sure opposing offenses sit there and say, let's test Spillane, let's spread things out. We may go heavy and then empty it out in 12 personnel and put these guys on islands and see what they can do. So be very, very interesting to see how both teams approach this change. Let's see. K. Jackson also says Henry is a very good running back, so I would think the Steelers would run blitz to get Henry in the backfield before he gets going, similar to what they did to Barkley. Your thoughts? I think that's fair. I think that's kind of the MO this team seems to take on most weeks. Judas Booth says Bud Dupree will have a big day against the backup left tackle of the Titans. I hope so. 2 more sacks for Bud yesterday. Knight Rider 16. When is the last time we faced Henry, and how did we do? Has this team played Derrick Henry before? In this current Derrick Henry elite form, it's not coming to mind. I mean,
I'll have
I
to
don't know if
look.
I have.
I can't remember.
Yeah, nothing notable at least, but maybe Dave can look that up. MW says Marcus Allen is a little light in the pants to log significant minutes. I like you're saying minutes, like he's a power forward for the Bucks. At inside linebacker, you all agree we're sitting with only 3 inside linebackers on the whole team for the rest of the way. Any outside linebacker on our team that can play inside? Not really. Again, they're going to roll with Spillane, and Allen can play maybe some more sub-package passing stuff where the weight won't matter as much, but Vince Williams is like 230, and he does not play like he's 230, so I hear your point there, but I think the weight and the size matters a little bit less than it did 20 years ago.
2017, Steelers 40, Tennessee 17. That one got away from them there. And Derrick Henry, because of that, only had 7 carries for 32 yards in that game.
I would love to see a repeat of that this Sunday. That is kind of the
I'm trying to recall that one in my head there. That was one where they just was that the color rush? No, that was I'm trying to remember, was that the color rush game or not? No, I don't think so. No, it might have been. That was at Heinz. That was a Thursday night game.
Yeah, is that the one where they used the sky cam for like the whole game?
That might have been, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that one vividly enough to remember the camera angle, but that sounds about right. And yeah, the score is, so did the Steelers, they got out to an early lead in that one?
They got off to a 10-0 lead.
What was the halftime score?
That was the one where they hit Rashard Matthews with remember that big play? Was that a blown coverage? I think Rashard Matthews, a 75-yard pass, right there, the first play of the second half there.
Yeah.
And then they calmed down after that, and they just but it was 16-7 Steelers at halftime.
Okay.
And then the Steelers poured it on them in the second half.
Yeah, get a lead. That'd be the best way to take the Titans out of their run game for sure. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Kevin Dawson turning out to be a real steal in the draft. This draft could be one of the strongest in recent years. How do you compare it? And I know it is early. It is early, but the returns have been impressive with Claypool, with Dotson, a little bit of Highsmith as well. McFarland getting some involvement in this offense. So I think we're seeing better and earlier returns than I expected, given the scope of these rookies and the difficult situation they were all obviously in.
What about Highsmith sticking out on a couple of special teams plays yesterday?
Yeah, I had a great stick on a punt yesterday. Directional punt, well done by Colquitt and Highsmith stuck. I mean, James Pierre has had a couple good tackles too. Undrafted guy that might be a little something, which is nice to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, he had one over there on the right sideline over there.
Yeah, I think he's got 2 or 3 in the last 2 weeks, and so good stuff there. Looking like a pretty good class overall.
Who do you replace Spillane with on special teams? Obviously, you're going to have UG3 up now.
Yeah, it's probably him. I mean, there's no guarantee that Spillane isn't used in some capacity. They scale that back. I'm not quite sure, but he is a really good special teams player. And they had Vince that, for some time did do both. I mean, it's not their preference, but it's possible. We'll see. But I think UG3 will certainly get a hat and have a role on special teams. Judas Booth, are you surprised that Vance McDonald gets so few targets despite lots of snaps? He was one of Ben's favorite targets in 2018. Yeah, just Ebron is the passing receiver. McDonald's admitted that. There are so many weapons on this offense with Claypool, Juju, Washington, Deontay when he's healthy. It's just McDonald's rarely anything more than the third, fourth check down progression. And so that does not lend itself to a lot of targets. And of course, yesterday when you threw the ball 22 times, I think it was, drop back 24, just not a lot of targets to begin with. So that's not a recipe for a lot of targets for your number 2 tight end. Yvonne Santamaria, what's the backup situation with Devin Bush and his backups? It's Spillane, Marcus Allen, UG3 are the inside linebacker candidates right now. We'll hear more from Mike Tomlin tomorrow on the situation. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. Hey guys, do you believe that Avery Williamson may be a trade target that would interest the Steelers?
No.
Dave said it quicker than I could. I haven't watched Avery Williamson. I know the Jets are, everything's for sale over there, but I don't really see the compelling reason. If you would go after somebody, I think you would get a hyper athlete type like a Jared Davis or Son Reddick. Probably not an Avery Williamson, but I think they're going to see how Spillane does first, how this defense does with whatever combination they come up with, and then go from there in a week or two. For Jado Telly, Vance McDonald is going to be utilized so good in the big games coming up. I hope so. Let's see. MW, Trayon Bandy got released, but where did he end up in Curtis Riley? Bandy, to my knowledge, is still a free agent, and did Riley circle back with Arizona? I don't know if we know that. If I know.
I don't remember hearing anything on either one of those guys.
Yeah, not too sure.
I think Riley might be back on the street, isn't he?
He might be. I know he got cut by Arizona. I don't know if he circled back though. Mark Leslie, how much does this team drop in quality with the players we will lose next season? Obviously, it's impossible to know who replaces them, but should we be prepared for doom and gloom, or should things be okay? Again, I don't think either one of those is necessarily the answer. When you have Ben, you always have a chance. We'll see exactly who they lose, and as you said, who they replace them with, but as we said at the beginning of the season, you knew this team was going to be as good as it could be this year. It's going to be worse next year because they are going to lose some significant pieces. We just don't know exactly who those guys are. So this is the year to do it. Not to say that they can't do it next year. They certainly could, but this is the season to win. That's the mentality I think I'm approaching it with. I think the mentality you're approaching it with, and probably the mentality this team is approaching it with. George Cool, I can see them sign in for agency or plus someone young with vet knowledge could be vital. Off the street, not a lot of options, George, and probably not someone who's going to come in and call your defense from day one. So I don't really see the upgrade there. Bryan, I seen how Spillane may or will be the signal caller. Wouldn't Vince be a better choice, or is it a positional thing and strictly need that guy in Bush's role to have the green dot? It's not positional. I mean, either linebacker could do it. I'm with you though, Bryan. If it was me, I'd have Vince do it, but maybe they'll go Spillane. We'll see what they ultimately land on. Knight Rider 16, is it crazy to think they may secretly have been on a pitch count, or are they making more of an effort to be balanced? Dave, what do you think about the pitch count with Ben?
Yeah, I'm not buying any of that. No, look, I mean, you run the football because you can run the football, and you take the air out of the football in the second half because you can take the air out of football in the second half. Yeah. So, no, there's no pitch count with Ben.
Yeah, I'm with you. Just game circumstance for sure. Judas Booth says cut Joe Hayden and sign Sutton. Then what do you do to replace Hayden? Is it Justin Lane? I mean, I think you're kind of creating more problems as you try to solve problems. Unless Hayden just isn't worth it. I think that's the approach that you would take. And MW says, how did Lane do on the outside in the game? He only ended up playing 3 snaps, and I don't think he was not targeted. I know that for a fact, and so we'll check the all-22, but we're talking about just 3 snaps there for Justin Lane. George Cool says Hilton came from Ole Miss, played with second-round pick Senquez Golson. Yeah, my Senquez Golson bust video I did in the offseason, I did touch on that, I think. And so at least you got one good Ole Miss corner from that class. I feel the need, both speed, says thoughts on Highsmith. Dave, aside from special teams, what do you think about rookie Alex Highsmith?
I haven't looked at yesterday's tape at the All-22. I'm 20 plays into the All-22 that just got released earlier today, so I haven't.
What about him just for the whole season?
I mean, not he had to play near the red zone there that we pointed out a couple of games ago. Probably not properly setting the edge on that. Nothing sticks out either way overall. But he just has the sample size of snaps are so small right now on that, and I haven't looked at what he played yesterday yet.
There's a question here. Maybe you can look this up, Dave. I don't know if this is a fact or not, but DSCNT says Jordan Berry visiting Steelers with a question mark. Why? Also, Carl Wilborn visiting maybe depth signing. Is that news that's actually coming across, Dave? I'm on Twitter right now. I don't see anything initially. Jordan Berry, is he visiting the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Not. I'll have to look at the sheets.
Okay.
I haven't looked.
Obviously, Colquitt has not been great this year. Looks like that Jordan Berry is visiting the Steelers, according to Aaron Wilson, and Ray Wilborn also visiting the Steelers. So maybe making a move at punter there. Colquitt has not been great.
It hasn't been good.
So we'll get that after the live stream here in a couple of minutes. So thank you for the heads up there, DSCNT. Old friend Jordan Berry. You can't get rid of him that easily. Sorry, Steelers Nation. Speaking of guys they want to get rid of, Jeff Sheeran says, when are the Steelers going to replace Terrell Edmunds? Not anytime soon. Edmunds has played better this year. He's certainly improved. I know he's not where some fans want or would need him to be, but I think you've seen gradual improvement with Edmunds' game. Let's see. Chris W., do you think they let DeCastro go in favor of Dotson? No, DeCastro's staying at right guard. They'll flip Dotson to left guard for next season, I think. Either that's because Filer's walked or Filer shifts to right tackle and Okorafor goes to left tackle if Villanueva is gone. MW, if you remember what Colbert said about not breaking up TJ and Bud and their connection and development, is there a way they can bring Bud back at any cost to keep that front seven intact? I don't see it, but it's going to cost so much money. Financially, I cannot see how they make that one work. I assume you're in the same camp of Bud's not returning, Dave.
Right.
Yeah. Bleacher Report says that, yeah, that's from Aaron Wilson. I just saw too, the Houston Chronicle. So Jordan Berry visiting the Steelers, and yeah, Tuesday is usually the day where those signings may happen. So we'll see if this is the end for Dustin Colquitt. If Berry circles back, Colquitt did have a couple of nice holds this season on some bad snaps, but the punting has not been probably where it needs to be. And so that is, for the moment, all of our questions. We'll give another minute or two. If we're out of questions, we'll probably wrap up the stream a few minutes early. So if you have a question for Dave or I in these last couple of minutes, feel free to send it in. Also accepting super chats as well. And just a reminder that we are here every Monday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And be sure to like the live stream as well. That helps us out and gives it a little bit more visibility for the live stream and for the channel. Alright, I think that's looks like that's about it for questions for today. So I think we're going to wrap up the live stream a few minutes early, Dave, so we can tackle some of this Jordan Berry news, and we'll see if a signing comes in later today or tomorrow. So as always, we will be here every Monday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Last question actually from Judas Booth, who just came in. Are you surprised at how durable and good Connor's been? I'm not surprised with how good Connor has been, the durability. We are only 5 games into this thing, but it's been a pleasant surprise, and let's hope that it continues. I feel the need for speed, says I love your film breakdown. Thank you very much. And Mark Leslie says, when was the last time we had a good punter? Probably the other Colquitt, Craig's dad, or Dustin's dad. Maybe the last time they had a good punter, Pat Brady back in the 50s. Might be the answer to that one. Josh Miller was an okay punter. All right, that's going to do it for the live stream. Dave, as always, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks, everybody, for sitting in with us on this Monday night. And peace and love to everybody. Thank you.
All right, again, we will be back in a week for next Monday, hopefully talking about a 6-0 Pittsburgh Steelers team. Thank you guys so much for being here, asking questions, and listening, and we will talk to you soon.